Hello, everyone. Today is May 13th, 2023. My guest today is Scott Carnahan. Scott is my good friend. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Scott.
It's good to be here again.
Good to be here again. This is a quick return. I thought we had a lot of good conversations on the last one.
Yeah, dude, I'm down to keep doing it until we run out of shit to talk about. So
Dude, honestly, I think you and I could go for like years.
we could. And that's the problem is we might not run out of shit to talk about. There's always current events and shit too that I
No
know nothing
shortage.
about. All speculation. All speculation. They'll make a whole theory out of nothing.
But that's like the human experience. Like you get a little piece and then you kind of build on that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look at Alex Jones, man. Came up with a
That
lot of shit out of
he
nothing.
that was
All he,
and yeah, we'll go.
All he had to do was be like, "My guys over at the Pentagon told me," and then you can literally say anything, and people will believe it because they'll
That is
believe he has guys over at the Pentagon.
Oh wow. And
Yeah,
that's just, lying. And
yeah, it's entertainment though. People enjoy it.
he
I think he was funny and he was entertaining. I don't believe any of the shit he says, but like the problem lies that there are people who believe 100% of everything you say when you're on a podcast like that. I mean, how do you have a conspiracy sort of show weekly? There's not that many conspiracies, you know? You got to make up like 95% of everything. And you talk about maybe one or two real ones that, eventually some government documents get leaked and everyone's like, "Holy shit, Alex Jones was right." And
and
then
then
that
it
just
gives him
then
credibility.
they believe the other 95% of the shit he says, but he's like 100% an entertainer. He's just a bullshitter and
Dude,
fucking yeah.
that's I didn't realize his show InfoWars was about conspiracies.
It's all conspiracy shit. Like it's all QAnon stuff or whatever, and like
Wow.
it's ridiculous. I mean, some of my favorite Joe Rogan podcasts are when he has Alex Jones on as a guest because it just gets crazy like out of nowhere. He's such a like insane dude. He might be on some shit too. I don't know. He's maybe a little methed out, or
Uh,
he's popping Adderall or something.
dude, I mean, that's a crazy experience. Like I've seen some or interesting intuition. I've seen some clips of him where, he's pretty he's
He's riled up.
jacked. Yeah, he's riled up. And you hear about things like, Adolf Hitler was taking a lot of amphetamines as well. And then you
Well,
see
Trump
some
too, right?
really.
Well, they said that about Trump. They said he was like too wired to be on the game that well for his age, and like they had confirmation that he was taking some form of amphetamine. He wasn't doing like street meth or anything, but like prescription, definitely
Adderall,
Adderall, something
Vyvanse.
like that. Yeah, something to keep the energy up. That's like totally believable. But yeah, you do see that fucking footage of Hitler at the Olympics where he's just going like this, and you're like, holy shit, he was cracked out. And then no one knew. It wasn't widespread enough back then because like the drugs were just, I think amphetamines were kind of just being made for like wartime stuff. And so like people, just like everyday citizens, that thought like Germany was on the right path or whatever, they're probably looking at him, be like, he's so psyched to be here, but that like in their mind they wouldn't be like, oh, that fucking meth head, you know what I mean?
No, it's
Yeah,
not. I mean, depending on the context that person enters your situation, your scene,
yeah,
you're going to go at it a different way. Like when I see someone who's, very dirty and raggedy clothes in a
yeah,
certain part of downtown and they
yeah,
smell, I'm
yeah.
like, okay, I'm going to assume,
There's like a
and
good
they
chance.
start screaming. Yeah, exactly. It's like you
Yeah.
probably, on some.
But if it was your first time seeing that and you had no prior knowledge of like yeah, those sorts of drugs or anything, right? Like the people in Germany
Yes.
seeing their leader at the Olympics just
And
fucking
it's their
losing his
leader.
shit, you know? they were just like, oh, that's just the way he is. That's why he's our leader, is because he's psyched about these things. But they would never guess that he's just like doing some gnarly experimental stuff, or is experimental at the time. But yeah,
It's kind of like, have you ever seen that movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper?
I haven't, but it's been popping up in my YouTube shorts, just little clips from the movie.
Really?
Yeah, but I don't know. There's always like little movie clips here and there. There's shit on YouTube of clips. Like I think I don't know. I love movies, but like it's also hard to pick a time to like sit down for fucking 2 hours and enjoy something nowadays. Everything's
Dude,
like given to you in smaller doses. And so there's like some movies I've basically seen the whole thing just through like clip after clip. I'm like, I get the gist. There's Limitless, and then I always get that one mixed up with the Justin Timberlake movie, the one where they're paying for things with like their lifespan, and the rich people get to live forever because they have so much lifespan, right?
I don't
I get
remember
I
this.
get those two mixed up. It was fuck, I can Google it. Justin Timberlake.
The Limitless one kind of goes to what we're talking about, though. It's like
Yeah,
there's this drug. It's I mean, the amphetamines of today are not unique to, are not only within a particular subset of the population. A lot of people take these drugs not recreationally, medicinally, but also, unfortunately, they kind of do hit the schools, the universities, and it goes from like, oh, let me use this as a study aid to, oh, this goes well with some drinks in the nighttime. And
yeah.
yeah,
I don't know. I've never been about the drug life for the most part. But yeah, it's kind of crazy how gnarly some of the stuff can get. I think it was my junior year. I had this guy in my apartment complex who lived downstairs, and he was like, I don't know. These people are always like a mystery, right? But this guy claimed he was working on the Google Glass project. So like back when Google was trying to do some augmented reality glasses thing with the little computer screen there. He had a pair in his room. So it was like, okay, that's somewhat legit. That's not a lie. But he said he's got this sort of drug deal thing going on, and he was hand selected. There's only one at every UC campus, essentially. And he had this briefcase, and it's with, really expensive, hard to get prescription drugs. And that was his gig, is he'd sell that shit. And he seemed like all right at first. I'm like, he's just like a normal, hardworking guy. He's obviously smart. Like, he was kind of selected for this. He's making money for his own sort of means. But then some nights you would see him out and he'd be beyond fucked up. And you'd be like, oh, this guy's got like fucking issues. This guy's like working through some shit. Cause like I don't even know what he's on, because he's got a whole briefcase full of like, prescription shit that people pay $500, $600 for. Like the big bottle of codeine. That was around the time Lil Wayne hadn't really been. He was still making music, so lean was still kind of popular. It was
two
right
cups.
right around the time Lil Wayne was kind of. I don't really know what he's up to, but he was kind of receding. He was receding and kind of letting the Young Money business get taken over by other people. But
By Drake and Nicki Minaj.
Drake and Nicki, I think it was even in Nicki's kind of later years, because she kind of stopped doing stuff after a while too, or stopped being on the charts at least every time. Oh yeah,
Okay.
it was around that time, so it was weird seeing that and being like, shit, okay, well now I have to imagine that there is one of these people who has access to prescription, like expensive ass prescription drugs, and there's one on every UC campus, because that's what the dude told me. So kind of crazy, like thinking about that there's some guy at the top pulling the strings, just like with prescription drug access, and just like giving it out for people to sell and make money
That's
on fucking
that's
the college
very
environment. Like it's
that
very
level of organization that you're
Yeah,
referencing is kind of insane to think about. Like you think
yeah,
it's
it's
just,
very
oh, this
structured.
guy, yeah,
Yeah,
one off,
very
just
structured.
here to there.
Yeah,
Um, but things are a lot more intricate, it seems, and I like to just stay away from it personally.
yeah,
I think that, the legalization of cannabis in
mhm.
our state, California, is, good for cannabis users within the state, and they can be sure that any substance they ingest is regulated, and at least, they don't have to go through these treacherous supply
Yeah,
chains.
yeah. It's definitely seems much more treacherous today too with the whole fentanyl thing, and that's where like the conversation's kind of heading. Is we have this massive problem with like the entire medical system in America where people are getting prescribed drugs based on like what people are being told to sell, right? And so with painkillers, it's all fucking opiate derivatives, and then you end up with these people who are addicted to pills for back pain. The prescription runs out, and then you end up with like unlikely candidates, middle-aged mom in a car accident, right? Gets some opiates for back pain. All of a sudden, she's like on the street fiending for heroin. She's not on the street yet, but like it'll fuck up your life. You know what I mean? And we that's obviously a little less apparent here because things are a little nicer. But I imagine it's fucking up the Midwest pretty bad right now.
Dude, I mean, I know football players who started using painkillers for a football injury, and now they have severe drug addiction problems, and
Yeah, it's rough.
it's very rough. And I mean, I you remember me in middle school, I broke my my bones,
Yeah,
I
you
was
you broke both arms at the same time.
at the same time, and then the
Yeah,
next year I ended up breaking my upper arm in a place that you can't cast it.
yeah.
So I was actually put on opioids when I was like 12 or 13, and I actually remember going through withdrawal on those opioids.
Yeah, that's sketch. Every injury or surgery I had to do, like my parents didn't let me get prescribed anything. So
Wow.
I know for wisdom teeth they usually give you Vicodin. I didn't wasn't allowed to take the Vicodin or anything like that. I had another surgery in high school. It wasn't that bad though. So like I didn't really request any sort of painkiller stuff. I just to this day don't even know what painkillers feel like or what they even are or what the big buzz is about. And I mean, at this point, I don't really want to find out.
No,
I mean, I definitely don't want to find out from a doctor because that means that I'm gonna have a painful accident somewhere in the future,
no.
right? And he's gonna be like, "You're gonna want these." Yeah, I don't want to find out that way, and I'm definitely not looking for it on the street. So, yeah.
It's yes.
Yeah, that
These
stuff is I don't know. It's insane. The fentanyl stuff is also terrifying. Um but yeah, I mean I had a good family friend die kind of not too long ago from OD.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. I guess what makes it tricky is you build up like a tolerance to heroin or something, right? And then you go through something like a rehab process to wean yourself off. And then if you relapse, you end up taking a similar amount to what you took before, and that's what fucks you over. Is you don't you
Okay.
don't you don't start small. You're like, oh, okay, this is what I took before, but your body doesn't have the tolerance to fucking deal with it, and you can OD again. So that must have been what happened there, and I don't know. I know another friend who works in the industry, the rehab sort of industry, and I've seen kind of like all these people fucked up. Well, not really fucked up. I mean, they're all getting better, but they're getting fucked up from withdrawals and stuff, kind of just around the facility. And it's like it's sad to see, especially like in in a wealthier area, like even when people can afford that stuff. It's what makes it so sketch in the first place is if you have people that are like homeless and don't really have a lot and they're addicted to this stuff, it's like good luck getting them clean because it's hard enough for people who have money, have caring families, and to get off of it, you know? So like what happens when you take away those sorts of positive forces in your life and you're addicted to something like that and then you end up with this downtown LA sort of situation where it's like, yeah, no one wants to get clean because like there's nothing waiting for them once they get clean anyway, you know?
That's so sad the way you
Yeah.
just described that.
Yeah. I mean it's true. It's the whole reason we have this fucked up system. And I don't know. I saw a pretty fucked up post the other day where someone was blaming the homeless population on like Narcan, you know?
What's Narcan?
That's the drug that you take to come down from an overdose. It saves people's lives, and there's like a huge push for people to start, carrying Narcan because it's somewhat easy to get, and you can save people's lives with it if they're going through an overdose. I mean, I'm not around people who are overdosing or anything like that, but there's like a push for that. And so basically the post was suggesting that if we let these people OD naturally, then we wouldn't have a homeless issue, which is fucked up to think about, right? But yeah,
Yes. I mean, it is fucked up. I think it's a bad way to go about the situation. I mean, there are people, these people are generally super high cost. I have seen, I don't know, I think it was in the book I read about Bellevue recently. It might not have been, but something along the lines of like a huge portion of money for hospitals, which hospitals are, safe havens for homeless drug addicts, homeless
mhm,
people, drug addicts, people with mental instability. They can come in, have a nice meal, maybe sit somewhere like clean for a little bit, and then leave. Maybe not a nice meal, but something. And they'll be taken care of for a few hours. And I read something along the lines of like a large percentage of one hospital's resources were put towards like 6 recurring patients
yeah,
that just came in and out and in and out of one hospital. And so people will reference things like that when they say, also, oh, we should possibly just let these drug addicts die out. Um, and then you think about, like, I think of the movie 300,
mhm,
where the Spartans would, I don't know if how true this is, but, I'm
yeah,
referencing a movie, the movie, the plot of the movie, not the historical actualities.
yeah,
Um, that the movie, they would sacrifice any baby that wasn't healthy.
yeah. Uh,
And go.
I mean, that's a thing in many cultures too. Like, I think in general, that was an Eskimo thing too. Is like if they had a child when things were bad, like they wouldn't care for it at all because they're just like there's not enough resources to go around, stuff like that. It's an old world sort of deal, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
And that's the thing, is like it's a very, there's lines that can be drawn there. And where do you cross? Where's those crossed? And we're a pretty rich society right now.
Hmm.
That might not last. And I've had guests on the podcast, and we've referenced how things have gotten more expensive for, I would say, our generation, being
Oh yeah,
millennials and baby boomers. I mean, I
uh,
just
yeah.
go.
I mean, definitely. I mean, everything is way more expensive than it was back then, especially. But like, it's a population and like availability thing too. It's like
What
we
do you
talked
mean?
about. We talked about how like my parents are not they're not the wealthiest people in Orange County. In fact, we're probably on the lower half nowadays because we don't own the home anymore. But they got in early, and that was kind of like the mix of who was in OC. It was rich young people and it was older people who got in early. before prices started soaring or before land became less available. You look at pictures from like, the time my parents sort of moved into Orange County, and there's like nothing. There's like Crown Valley, and that's the only road that goes
In
to the
Orange
freeway.
County.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, like in our part, there were so fewer roads. Like the land was just largely undeveloped, and now it's like such a hub. And so
Yes.
it's only natural that, competition for resources. I mean, we talked about this last time too, is just all the people trying to live close to the beach and the mountains, I guess. But yeah, I mean, pricing pricing is going up because there's more competition now. And there's also a shitload of foreign investment. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
Going back to what we were talking about, it's still like a part of, you spoke about Eskimos and them sacrificing when things got tough.
yeah,
And it's you know, it's very tough because when someone is an addict on drugs and like they just are, I have experience with an addict and they're kind of just self-destructive and not
oh
even
yeah.
just self-destructive. Like if you
If you get
like
involved, that you're suddenly part of the destruction too.
exactly.
Yeah,
And it's very tough because but do we lose some of our humanity if we take away those Narcan cans or whatever that is?
yeah.
Yeah,
If we outlaw Narcan, I don't know, dude, because then people are dying everywhere. It's like it's maybe fucked up to say, but like I was saying before, you got these people who are in rehab. It's expensive. Their parents are paying for it, and not all of them even get clean, right? But
no.
at least when they get out, there is some supportive structure they have in their life, like their families, like the fact that their families have money, maybe connections, maybe they can get a job, doing whatever, something that maybe even pays well, you know. But in the sense of downtown LA, or someone who's homeless, maybe doesn't have a family or has been excommunicated, doesn't have that light at the end of the tunnel, without
Or has
access.
done
Yeah,
a lot of bad things to their family and just feels awful.
yeah. And so if we outlaw Narcan or access to Narcan, people on both ends start dying, like people
Yes.
who would have something more to live for, and people who care about them versus people who are literally just kind of like another number in the homeless population. So, you'd have to weigh those odds, because I think in general people probably care more about someone who could be a productive member of society dying because Narcan's outlawed, and whereas someone who's like goes from homeless and addicted to homeless and clean, but there's no way out of homelessness. Like, especially now, there's no way out of homelessness. You could, I don't know. Everyone's trying to solve that issue, and I think it's, with the drug issue, there's obviously a ton of homeless people as well who are homeless just financially, and they don't have these other problems like addiction or anything like that. But even
Or
just surrounding them with a bunch of homeless people who do have addictions, like that's also maybe a problem. We're maybe losing out on members who would be productive to society by even grouping them in the same category as homeless people who are, addicted, or homeless because they were addicted, or addicted because they are homeless.
is
You
it
never
causation or correlation?
I don't know. I think it goes both ways, but there's not enough studies on it right now to like break down percentage. Like, hey, did addiction ruin your life to the point where you became homeless, or did you become homeless and your life was ruined, which caused your addiction, right?
Yes.
And that
And
both cases have to exist, right? Like,
exactly.
yeah. And in large quantities, because like both of them sound like logical and feasible, explanations for homelessness or addiction. And then you have the mental illness on top of that. Some of that's probably
Yes.
even caused by addiction. Addiction is technically a mental illness also.
Yes.
Uh,
It's
but
kind of, depression, mental illness, anxiety, uh, they all kind of go together. I don't want to say they're the same problem, but a lot of
yeah,
times they compound on each other.
yeah, that's true, definitely. But I don't know. I'm not a therapist. I didn't study drugs. I didn't studied studied plants and shit.
Before we go on to plants, one
I'm not gonna
thing.
switch the subject to plants.
Oh, well, you already did. You already did by bringing it up. But one thing also I worry about is when people do these drugs to the point where they've lost their mind. Like I feel like I know someone who has lost their mind to drugs. Like you hear I remember this, like, this is your brain, and then it's like an egg, and then they
They
crack the
crack it
egg
and
and
they
fry it,
brain
and
on
this is
drugs.
your
Yeah,
brain on drugs. And it's like, wow, I actually might, like, granted, I think that's a really crude
yeah.
metaphor, but
We made fun of those PSAs at one point in time, but now they make a lot of sense. Yeah,
now they make a lot of sense because, like, I just, you hear someone. I mean, you don't know it's like 11:30 in the morning and they're actually drunk, or
yeah,
if they're not drunk and they're just kind of like hearing them, the hangover, but then that they do things that are more intense than just alcohol. And
yeah,
so it's like, are they, you don't, at what point do you, like, have no, you have to be with this person a lot of the time to actually know what they're doing, but you can hear the slur in the voice, you can hear the way they talk, you can hear the complete incoherence of subjects and ability to communicate in a thoughtful and meaningful pattern, and just say, is this curable?
yeah. Because it changes who you are too, for
Yes.
the most part. Also, like I think I didn't do weed for a long period of time, but when I did, I think it permanently changed what I enjoyed, right? And I
How did
think,
it do that?
well, I was in a pretty high stress environment most of the time, going through school and doing like Navy ROTC program. I didn't have to do the program. I could have taken loans. I didn't need to pay off my whole school through joining the military afterwards or anything like that. But when I was in the program, it was high stress. It was, there's already students struggling at UCLA who don't have to fucking wake up at 5 a.m. 3 times a week to go do workouts or learn about sexual harassment on boats and ships and stuff. 'Cause that's mainly what it felt like I learned was mostly just how to not sexually harass people who are on the same boat as you. Um, but and and then I don't know. I got a whole
I
week on a boat, and I was like, "There's a lot of sexual harassment on this boat."
Is that what you saw, and or is that what you observed, or was that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of sex happening on boats, or there's a lot of relationships between female and male sailors and stuff. And people know about it, they kind of sweep it under the rug because you want to think that the military is like super organized and professional, but like in reality, there's the same problems as any workplace.
And even it
I wouldn't
compounds.
necessarily call it sexual harassment, but I would call it like fraternization in a sense that it's not supposed to happen. Um,
Okay. Well,
yeah,
you always worry the fraternization, like, someone takes it to a point where it's past fraternization, because then you say the fraternization is not allowed, but then people are fraternizing, and then someone's like, oh, people are fraternizing. Well, this is a great way to just do whatever I want in the name of fraternizing. And
yeah.
it,
Well, the definition of fraternization in the military is, I guess, they have like an actual military law sort of in place, and
oh
so
wow.
if you're an officer, oh shit, I'm still on Discord. Hold up.
Have you been on Discord this whole time?
Yeah, no one's been in here though. My
Oh,
homie just
nice.
popped in. Yeah, the whole definition of fraternization, or the law that sort of prevents it, is if you're of an officer ranking, you can't have any relations with anyone who's enlisted.
That
So
makes sense.
it makes sense because you're technically in charge of promotions or whatnot. I forget if there's like kind of loopholes, like if you're in different commands or whatever, or you're long distance on a West Coast sort of station and she's enlisted over in Virginia or something. I don't know if there's exceptions for something like that, but the whole deal was like it doesn't even matter. You can't even start dating. You're not allowed to get married. Like none of that shit. Like just because of the rank difference, and the rank difference is realistically, I mean, it's a few extra steps, but you need a college degree to be an officer.
Got it.
Yeah.
I know a few people that, from college just went straight to officer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but back to the subject on drugs. So I was in kind of a high stress environment. I envied the people who weren't in the high stress environment, because I was struggling in school also. Besides like having all this extra military stuff to do, and I think I utilized my time poorly. I put most of it into the military program and partying, and I didn't put enough into the actual academics of it all.
That
And
sounds
so
like not a, I mean, you know, just get rid of the military for me, and like I
and
didn't
then
put enough.
and then put it, yeah, but then I did that, and then it felt like I had all this extra free time on my hands and I abused it
When
poorly.
you left the ROTC,
Yeah, when I left the ROTC, I abused my free time poorly because I was like, I've already been mostly passing classes with all this shit, and now look at all the time I have on my hands. So I kind of slumped into absolute leisure mode,
nice.
which was not great. And I don't know if that was more of a product of the fact that I could now smoke weed all the time because I wasn't getting drug tested on the regular, or if it was literally just having this hole open up in my life with no forced structure, right? Military is very like forced structure, forced. You have to be disciplined, but they make you disciplined, but you take it away, it doesn't mean that you're going to remain disciplined, especially if you're not like about that life. And I don't think I fit in terribly well. There were some things I liked a lot. I liked the running and the working out, going to camp, shooting guns, all sorts of shit like that. But there was a lot of bullshit that I didn't really agree with or understand. I was more on the path of becoming a hippie than anything. And then also there was like the constant threat of like wartime, and like it's like, oh shit, I could get out, but then I don't even know what the main concern was back then. It was like maybe North Korea, so it was like maybe not, wasn't the most dangerous time. But now we have this whole Russia thing, and it would kind of suck to be in the military right now and realize like, oh, some shit could go down, and then I actually have to go fight. Because you join the Navy or the Air Force if you're like, yeah, I don't want to ever see combat. And you join the Marine Corps if you're like, I want to kill people.
Wow. And
Yeah.
I mean, the death rates for Air Force, for air, pilots in the World War II era, I think was really high. Like,
Yeah.
and I think sailors had a very high chance of surviving, and almost some of them never even saw combat.
Yeah, and that's kind of like how it would be. I mean, you can join the military in any branch, and as long as your test scores are good enough, like during your tests, you can get placed wherever that's safest. You could,
Not in the front
yeah,
lines.
yeah, just, but like that's the difference though, is people join the Marine Corps and their first choice is front lines.
Yes,
Yeah, they're
which
like,
is insane.
I wanna fight, I wanna serve, and you're like, something's broken in your mind. Like,
Yeah.
not to insult anyone who's like actually served. Obviously, like it is
I,
it is an honor, but at the same time, it is kind of fucked up.
I mean, there are things like I forget the name of it, but the Philippines in World War II for the Marines, those were atrocious standards. And
What do you mean by like atrocious standards? Like,
like there were instances where the Marines were like there were sets of the Marines that had to be abandoned, and then they had to the march. I forget the march that they had to do,
hmm
and like that's a result of being frontline men. Like they went, they were the first people to hit the Philippines.
hmm
The It was an unsuccessful. Let me do this. I'm gonna Philippines Marines, and then World War II. What was it? The liberation of Philippines. I forget, but there were several instances. I forget the name of the specific places they were, but I mean, just to say, when you're a frontline man, and then there are things that are going to happen that are very crazy,
Oh yeah,
and like, have you?
all the
There's
all the
go.
training is just crazy shit for the most part. Because the whole point of like the boot camp stuff, the people screaming in your face, the loud noises, like having to do the not mustard gas, but it's the tear gas, having to do the tear gas chamber, having to do all of that is just all to fully desensitize you for when shit gets crazy on the front line.
And I don't think, like you said, something's wrong with them. I just don't think maybe they do, but like I've
It's
read, go.
yeah, I think it's mostly just people have no idea what they're sort of getting themselves into. They have an idea of what it could be and what it could be like, and like no amount, it's that pipe dream. It's like the reason why everyone loved signing up for war during like World War I and World War II. It was the cool thing to do, right? You see those movies like Captain America, and he's like the nerd who can't sign up to go serve, and he wants to so bad because all the cool kids are doing it, sort of, right? But like you see all those people who survive, and like everyone's fucking traumatized, PTSD everywhere. And so, it's the dream, and it still exists in some people, but like I don't know, dude, after doing a few tours in Iraq or something like that, you realize like the dream you had about joining was, kind of bullshit. Didn't go the way you wanted it to.
It's I don't know. They enlisted, they have to find a way to keep on going, and it's I mean, you sign up for it, and when you sign up for it, that's a serious thing. I never signed up for it.
Yeah. And the hard
Did
truth is we need it.
Oh, yes.
Like, and that's another problem is fucking numbers are down. Like being a recruiter nowadays has got to be like it's got to suck, because like everyone has the college option nowadays. Everyone has loan options that they can take. It's not always just relying on a GI Bill to pay off your shit. And yeah, less people are signing up. I know they started like an entire like gaming esports program to try and draw people in. Um,
The military?
oh yeah, they got esports teams for sure. Like
Wow.
yeah, because you, I mean, I met quite a few like active duty Marines while I was on the ship. I was only on the ship for a month, I think, but Navy people on the ship, they all have jobs to do and stuff. The Marines are just getting schlepped to their next point where they're gonna get dropped off, whether it
Yes.
it become. Of course, we're on the Pacific side, and there's no like active wars or something. If we were on like the Mediterranean side and they were going to get dropped off at some base in like Israel or something like that, that would be a little sketchier for them. But for the most part, all they're doing on the ship, since they don't have, responsibilities as far as some of the Navy people go, because the Navy people are like, okay, go paint the engine room, go go do this on this deck or something, but the Marines are just kind of chilling playing Call of Duty the entire time
Wow.
because they're just on the way somewhere, you know.
That's yes, and it's not their ship. It's the sailor ship.
Yeah, technically, Navy covers Marine Corps and Navy. Originally, I mean, it's obviously two sort of divisions, and they both do very different things. But that's another thing people don't realize either is a lot of people in my program all wanted to be pilots, and you have way greater opportunity of being a pilot in the Navy or Marine Corps than in the Air Force, which seems counterintuitive.
What's the reason?
I think there's just more slots open and available. Like you have a much higher chance of flying planes off of an aircraft carrier than you do off a ground base, just because that's how most of the planes are being deployed nowadays.
Wow.
Yeah. So, uh, and I think Marine Corps actually had like an actual set of things. You know, they had like an actual like list, and they're like complete everything on this list, and you're a pilot. You know, like you're guaranteed a slot.
Oh
So
wow.
you know, people were trying to do that a little bit more because everyone kind of wanted to fly. I didn't want to fly, so I didn't really have the calling that everyone else had. But
What's the reason you didn't want to fly?
my dad flew, and so I didn't think it was cool, you know, because I'm rebellious like that.
Really? That was the only reason?
Well, it wasn't that. It was like I don't know. I grew up on video games, right? Like I grew up playing N64, moving on to the Xbox phase and stuff, and my dad would constantly take me to flight simulators and, you know, flying lessons, stuff like that. And to me it just felt like a shittier game.
Really?
Like this game is boring, you know? There's not any
Okay.
shiny things to collect. It was too real for the age I was, right?
Yes.
It's something I would maybe enjoy a little more now, but like even then it's not, it doesn't feel like my calling, right? There's some people who just want to be in the sky. I'm afraid of heights, so that doesn't really bode insanely well.
And if
But
it's
like
anything like driving, then I definitely don't want to get anywhere near it.
it's not, it's like a safer version of driving technically, I think,
Because you
because you
don't
want
have other cars.
yeah, I mean there's other shit in the sky, but like imagine driving with like 1/500th of the amount of cars on the road, and then everyone's also on a fucking group chat call
Wow.
to avoid not hitting each other. Like it's a little bit safer in that regard. I mean, there's other things, but
And
for
you
the
have
most,
radar.
you have radar. Yeah, I got a friend who's doing pilot's license stuff. I got a couple of older friends from that program that are flying. Actually, one of them fucking, there's a big deal. One of them was trying to land on the aircraft carrier, right? It
Wow.
wasn't my friend, but it was one of the people in his crew, and the dude fucked up and smacked the lip of the ship and blew up the whole F-18 or F-16 or whatever it was. And he ejected and shit, so he was fine. But it was like a, you know, that makes the news. That's like a bad look, and obviously this guy's gone through a lot of schooling, flight schooling to get to where he's at, and then all of a sudden it's just like you're never we're never letting you near a plane again. You,
Wow.
yeah. So that's also like the other end of it.
Dude, I mean, it's like even those test simulations, even those like, just run throughs, like those are serious procedures that are very dangerous. Like, I think there was a Navy SEAL who was like using rope to go down from a ship and ended up just dying. It just falling from the rope and dying.
Damn. Yeah, I didn't hear about that. I haven't really
This
been
was like
keeping
a
up
year
on
ago.
military news or anything like that, but
No,
I don't know.
luckily we don't have to because we're not in an active like war.
I've seen a couple shorts of like they had that whole Sully movie with Tom Hanks. So I've seen a couple clips from that movie, right? About
What's
the guy
Foley?
who Sully was the one he took off on. I don't even know where it is, but I know the river he landed on because they just talked about the river so much. But it was like right after takeoff from the airport, some birds went straight into the engine, and he had like multiple engine failure,
yes.
and then he had to land on the river.
The Hudson River?
It was the Hudson. Yes, that's right. So we both remember the river, but I don't know which city that's in.
It was in New York.
Oh, it was in New York. Okay. Yeah, I don't
Yes.
know. I don't really spend any time on the East Coast, so I don't really know this shit. But people been, doing the new flight simulators so accurate and stuff. People been trying to recreate whether or not they could fully flip Yui the plane around and land back at the airport, because that was like the whole. They do like a big investigation after an issue like that happens, and they try to make it look like they're not at fault, and they try to blame it on the pilot, right? Like it was that whole movie Flight. That's what got you so frustrated when you're watching Flight, is because you're like, yeah, he's an alcoholic, but he saved all these people because he did this. It's a completely made up scenario, but it really
Wasn't it
makes.
real?
I don't think was the Denzel Washington movie
Dude,
based on
was
that.
real.
I don't think that one was real because he fucking flipped the plane upside down and landed it in a field.
Dude, you gotta find out if it was real.
Okay, let me look up. I think that's just too ridiculous to be real, but it actually could be real.
Yes, hopefully we find out.
Okay, Flight Denzel, loosely inspired by
Loosely.
Alaska Airlines Flight 261. So
Alaska Airlines.
Flight
261.
261. Yeah.
What happened in that flight?
I don't know. I thought you were asking because you were gonna Google it.
I am Googling it, and
Alaska Airlines 261. Okay.
from Puerto Vallarta.
It crashed in the Pacific Ocean.
Did
Yeah,
it?
so the movie had nothing to do with that because he flipped the plane upside down and landed it in a field.
Wow. So that was
Yeah.
just completely lie.
It was maybe like the same scenario, but maybe the movie was about the scenario being able to
Dude,
being
I'm
being able to have the
searching
hero land it. But
I'm
they
searching the word alcohol in the Wikipedia page of this, and it doesn't exist. Dude, they just completely made up.
no. Yeah. They took it and they were like, but what if someone could have landed the plane? And then they put a drunk Denzel Washington in there. And he's like, I inverted the bird and landed her safely in an
Not
open
even
field.
drunk, dude. That guy, he was also on drugs.
Yeah, he was like an alcoholic, and they tried to demonize him the entire movie. But the core concept of it, well, this is the even more fucked up thing now that we know more about it, is everyone died on the actual flight. This guy,
Really?
well, actually, no, I don't know. Never mind. I don't think I just fucking didn't read enough of the article. Okay, Alaska Airlines 261. Did everyone die or?
Killing all 88 on board.
Okay, yeah. Everyone died. And in the movie, only like 8 or 9 people died from the stunt he pulled. But they still wanted to demonize him. And that's like was the whole point of the movie, is he was a hero. His alcoholism had nothing to do with it. They just wanted to pin it on him. And so it made you fucking frustrated because you're like, these fucking government regulations are ruining America. And and so yeah, dude, like the people lived at least in the movie and they were still mad at him, but like the actual event that it was loosely based on, everyone fucking died. And
I don't
yeah,
even know how you can base it on, like, what makes, because it's a regulation. That's
they
the
said
only
loosely. That term is
very, very loose, dude.
yeah,
Like,
very
it's
loose,
like, whoa,
very
like
loose.
decoupled.
I bet Denzel Washington wasn't even flying that plane.
Oh my god, dude.
But yeah, that's what's
My
fucked. But
mind is
anyway,
blown.
I've seen these simulation videos because I guess part of the movie, I saw it on a YouTube Shorts. Is they're trying to blame Tom Hanks for landing in the Hudson and not trying to make a full circle back to the airport. And then people in the comments were like, "Oh, hundreds of simulations were ran after this, and only like 9 were actually able to make it back to the airport." And I don't know if that's accurate or whatnot. But then all of a sudden, I'm starting to get recommended flight simulator videos on my feed of people trying to replicate the exact conditions and landing back at the airport. And so that's like kind of like a it's like a what is it? It's like a badge of honor in the flight sim community if you can pull something like that. You know what I mean?
Yes,
It's
but
like it's a fun thing to do is replicate trying to make it back to that airport.
so what's the percentage of pilots that are able to land in the Hudson? Like, is it
Uh,
very high?
I didn't do any research on that or anything, but um,
Because then he's probably still doing the right thing if only like 9 out of 100.
I don't even know. Let's maybe even look up those numbers because I don't know if anyone died. I think a few people died. Otherwise, people wouldn't have been
For Schnully?
for Sully. Yeah.
Dude, I
Let's.
thought everyone survived.
Oh well, I don't know. I feel like maybe not everyone survived.
I feel like,
I feel like 90% of the people survived, but like, why would they be so let's
dude, I
see.
feel like flight crashes are an all or nothing thing. Either someone's gonna all 155 people on board were rescued with only a few serious injuries.
Okay,
Like,
yeah, yeah. No, in flight. See, that's the thing is I'm getting this actual event mixed up with the Denzel Washington movie. In flight, I think a few people died when he landed the plane, but most of them
it
got
was
sick.
just a it was a woman. It was the woman. Dude, I'm done with that movie, dude. After finding out how
It's a good
loosely
movie.
coupled it is, dude, it's a good movie, but like I can't even speak about it anymore. Like you can't even put it on the same thing as Sully because like
Because it didn't
Sully,
happen. Yeah.
dude, Sully did an amazing job. Hopefully he never
Well,
has to work again in his life.
that's the
But
thing
like,
is flight was made loosely based on a flight that completely failed, and then Sully happened, and they were like, "We have to make this is gonna be better than flight. We gotta make a movie out of this. Get Tom Hanks on it."
yes,
So yeah, but at the same time, I draw those parallels in the plots because it's two pilots doing some radical measures or some shit, and then basically that's the first, I don't know, fucking 30 minutes of the movie, and then the rest of the movie is just the litigation teams and all this
was it the
stuff trying
same
to
for
figure out
Sully?
how to assign blame. Yeah, I think it was the same for Sully. Because like, what's the rest of the movie for Sully? He lands the plane in the first 30 minutes of the movie. You got an hour of time to fill. What's gonna happen,
Dude,
right?
why can't we
It's
have a
gonna be
30
all
minute
these.
movie?
It's gonna be all these government agencies being like, "You were wrong for landing in the river, even though everyone lived. You could have made it back to the airport." You know, and that's probably the whole movie. I haven't seen enough of it, but I'm guessing that's the whole movie. And maybe we'll get some audience interaction. If anyone's listening to this podcast right now and has seen the movie, maybe they can tell me that I'm fucking wrong or that I'm fucking right. That would be cool.
Put it in the comments.
Put it in the comments. Comment if I'm totally wrong about how this movie plays out, because I feel like it's probably similar to Flight, other than the fact that Sully wasn't popping pills and going for drinks early in the morning.
Dude, how did we get on this topic?
Ooh, we were talking about how drugs permanently affect maybe the rest of your life, and then I talked about how weed maybe contributed to my hippie lifestyle
And then we
slash
talked
laziness,
about
and
military
we talked about
pilots.
military stuff, then pilots, and then we're back on sort of pilots.
Yes.
And shit, I was about to bring it to something else here, but I forgot what it
We
was.
had Denzel. We had
And
government regulators.
oh, I was gonna talk about how it kind of makes sense that like drinking would help with that sort of thing. Because did you know that drinking is outlawed in shooting competitions?
That's probably a good idea. That's probably a good thing. I
No, it's because it gives you unfair advantage.
really,
Yeah, if you have a small amount, like one drink, your aim is steadier.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah, so like I don't know. There's probably a movie like along that line too. There's probably a movie somewhere out there that's basically like the flight of like surgery or some shit, you know, about a surgeon with like, you know, he needs to drink to steady
Steady
his
hand.
hand. Yeah, something like that. There's probably a movie like that that exists. Wouldn't even know what to look up, but it's
I
out there.
think alcohol used to be like the painkiller of choice, right? Like before,
Actually, yeah, you're right. Because like people would, well,
and
it
the
was wound
sedative of
cleaning too.
choice. Let's
Yeah,
say
it
that.
was like in the Western movies and shit, right? Whenever someone gets shot, they have to pull the bullet out and they take a big swig for the pain, right? And they pull the
Yes.
bullet out and then they pour the whiskey on the wound too, you know, to clean it.
Yes.
And also, I'm pretty sure in the movies where there is some old Western doctor or surgeon trying to get the bullet out for the main character, he takes a drink of the whiskey before he hands it to the guy,
Yes.
right?
He
That's
drinks
a
the whiskey,
he
then the
drinks the
guy drinks the
whiskey, then
whiskey,
the
and then
guy
he
drinks the
takes a
whiskey, and then he takes the bullet out, and then he pours the whiskey on the wound.
yes.
Yeah,
I've seen these scenes.
yeah, exactly.
And they say, I heard this recently, like a drunk driver is more likely to survive than sober passengers. I don't know.
Yeah,
Hopefully, no one's getting in those situations where they're sober with the drunk driver, but
yeah. That's
because they're
why.
looser.
Yeah. So if there is someone drinking and driving your car, make sure you're just as drunk as they are.
I'm thankful for Uber, dude. I feel like a lot of people
Dude,
our age,
Uber has saved so many fucking lives.
dude, and people. I mean, I think there was like a few years ago, people were trying to outlaw Uber, and then like I think Mad. I don't know if this is true, but hopefully Mad Mothers Against Drunk Driving were just like, this is an atrocity. Whatever
Yeah,
entity is moving this is like, this is an atrocity.
dude, what's Uber gonna be like? Because apparently Uber was Uber's been taking losses all these years, I guess, right?
Yes.
And it's all because they're going for that long-term payout of eventually having driverless cars, right?
My thing is like, I think Tesla's in a better. Dude, it's going to be tough for Uber when they don't actually own a car.
But they can just buy up Teslas.
They can buy up Teslas, but I feel then we get into the whole encryption thing and
Hmm.
we get into hardware and software. And I think it's going to be tough for
Do
Uber
you
to
think Tesla will buy Uber?
I think Tesla has no need for Uber. I think Tesla can create their own rideshare app.
Their own rideshare app.
Dude, I bet Elon Musk is thinking because I don't own a car.
Hmm.
I don't own a car and I Uber a lot in San
Yeah.
Diego. And dude, I would say maybe 50% of the cars that I Uber with, not Lyft. Lyft is not like this. Uber is.
Yeah.
50% of the cars that I Uber with are Teslas.
Oh yeah, they're
I'm
Teslas anyway.
and I don't know if that's an accurate, that's just like me throwing out an approximation.
That's like maybe a San Diego thing too. Like I don't think I've
Yes.
been in that many Tesla Ubers in general. Like it
Dude,
feels
I
like a
feel like
special
in
occasion
LA
when I'm
that's
in it.
gotta be a similar thing too. Like
Yeah,
maybe
kind
if
of.
you go to like and San Francisco, I'm gonna guess it's similar too. But
Yeah.
if
Oh,
I was
definitely San
Elon,
Francisco.
you could put a rideshare app on the car. I hope he's thinking about this. I hope someone at Tesla's thinking
Just
about
like
this.
integrated with the car software.
Yes.
Uh,
Integrated with the car software. The encryption is going to be on the hardware itself. It's going to be way more integrated. You can add decentralized things in there, decentralized economy, real simple through the car. And
oh shit. Okay, I just thought of something though.
what's up?
So this is gonna be tricky, I think, because legally this could be weird. Okay, but imagine you're drunk and you're a fucking hooligan, right? You get picked up by a driverless Tesla, right?
Yes.
Are you allowed to sit in the driver's seat?
Yes.
What prevents you from having access to the controls?
The taxi driver. I mean, so many taxis that I get into they have cameras.
Mhm.
So first thing is you put a camera on it.
Mhm.
Next thing, that's one. And then so the thing with cybersecurity is there's no one thing that's going to solve it.
Yeah.
Like it's layered. So
Mhm.
one layer is the camera. Another layer would be having some sort of feedback mechanism to the network to say when this thing is automated and when this thing, or sorry, when this thing is automated and when it's on manual.
Yeah.
And that would be number two. And those are the two that I'm envisioning would, there's probably others as well. Maybe you just don't
Yeah.
give them an option.
So you prevent access to the controls, but let's say that in the self-driving there's a fucking error, right? And now
Yes.
the passenger's unable to prevent impending crash.
That's kind of
That
like elevators. I think about elevators.
Oh, dude, I fucking hate elevators, dude.
I hate old elevators. I
Yeah,
really
no, I don't like any buildings with more than like 5 floors. If your building has more than 5 floors, like, mm,
I
just
understand that.
just make every building in LA have 5 floors instead of making a few of them have 60 floors. You know what I mean?
Were we talking? I think it was you and me. Our last conversation, we were talking about the Amsterdam stairwells
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. How
and
those
how
are
like
Yeah, there's no elevators in the old buildings.
there's no elevators, and it's like
That's fine. I'm okay with that. It sucks when you get older, but like maybe that's why I don't know. Maybe older people up
need
there
to
have
live
more
on the
leg
first
strength,
floor.
or they have more leg strength. Or yeah, or maybe they've accumulated enough money to get the first floor apartment.
I'm not a big fan of. I mean, I had a friend on here who he's a DJ and he was talking about how he wants to move into a first floor unit because he has parties and he doesn't want his downstairs neighbors to get pissed at him for the parties. And I was like, dude, you and I are on like I'm like on the first floor, so I don't have to deal with deal with
Yeah,
you. I'm
exactly.
sorry, I'm on the top floor, so I don't have to deal with you.
Yeah, but then there's also yeah, but doesn't the second floor neighbor now suffer from parties?
No, he's on the bottom floor.
Yeah, but if someone's on the next floor up, now they gotta deal with it. It's just whatever floor is
Oh, it
adjacent,
goes
right?
up? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like if you got bass going and shit, like your floor is gonna vibrate a little bit. You can't
Yes.
avoid that. It doesn't even matter if the room is well, it probably does matter quite a bit if the room is soundproofed. But yeah, that's the thing. If you can have parties anywhere if you just soundproof everything. And
Okay.
in fact, I'm going to put forward a measure for all apartments in college towns must legally have soundproofing.
Legally,
Legally. Dictator Scott is putting his hand down. Fucking
dictator Scott.
yeah,
That's a scary
dictators.
thought.
Dude, I'd be the best fucking dictator ever. There'd be statues of
Dude,
me
that's like,
everywhere, and I wouldn't have even had
dude,
to ask anyone
every
to build them.
dictator has to say that,
They
dude.
would
I'm pretty that's like
they
a
would build
recurring.
statues of me out of gratitude. Like after I died, they'd be like, "Shit, remember how sick he was? Damn."
Oh man, dude. This is that's pretty funny that you say that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I did not everyone would agree with everything I do, but when was the last time we had a leader that was universally agreed upon?
What an interesting conversation we've had with Scott today about many things. Narcotics, which in America is a very, I don't know, sensitive topic for sure, but we have what I feel to be one of the highest drug abuse rates in the world. So we should definitely be aware of our relationship with narcotics. What is that, Scott?
I don't know. That's why I'm showing the camera because they don't know either. Oh,
Um, is 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 that an energy drink?
yeah, they're quite good. They get you pretty jazzed.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
Cosmic Stardust flavor. It's grape.
Only 10
Salted
calories.
grape. Let's see, 10 calories. Lots of vitamins.
I love not drinking calories, dude. Drinking calorie because eating is very. I mean, you weren't a big boy in high school. You know that I
I've been
was.
skinny until COVID, basically, and now I've
And
stopped looking anorexic for once. You know.
do you like that? How do you feel
Uh,
about that?
I feel bad because I feel like I was more in my prime during high school and like military time because
Dude, you were
I was
in
jacked.
high school, not just
I
jacked, but
wasn't
like
jacked, but I was
a
dense.
special type of strength.
Yeah,
Yes, dude. Some of these some of you skinny guys, I'll call you that, are just like dense, like you said. Like you could move. I remember you were playing dodgeball and your whole team just like got killed. Like
bro.
everyone on your team out, and you were just evading, like
I
boom, boom,
couldn't
boom,
throw the
boom, boom.
ball. I couldn't throw
Yes,
or
but
catch, but I dodged for like a solid minute and a half.
dude, you dodged against multiple other throwers, like,
Yeah,
and also you were, I think you were into parkour in high school too, weren't
yeah.
you?
That Office episode of Parkour came out, and everyone was talking about it. I still have not seen it till this day. I've only seen the clip, but yeah, we kind of we ironically got into parkour, and I got like pretty decent at it. But there's only so much you can do before things become like, oh, if I fuck this up, like my
I'm
nuts are
dead.
fucked or my arm is broken, right? Troy fucking climbed the Soka University basketball building, like the 70 feet up in the air sort of deal. You know what I mean? Like, just we have some nutso footage from like crazy shit we did back then. I
Troy
was too scared
climbed
to.
that.
Yeah, well, it was so sketch because it was that really smooth stone, right? And it's angled like this, and then it reaches the top, and it's curved up here. And so we found like a way to like climb up and at least get on the roof. And from there, you got to go up this kind of like slippery thing, and off one side is just roof tiles, no grip. The other side is straight drop to the ground, and it goes up. Maybe the peak is at 60 feet, which is like pretty fucking nuts in the suburbs, you
Dude,
know.
I mean,
We're not
you might not die, but you're
we're not
definitely
climbing the
gonna.
Burj Khalifa, but we're doing something, right?
Yeah,
We
I
used
know, doing something to hurt yourself.
Bro, we used to have this game we played. It was one of my dumbest ideas, but it was fun. It was called Ninja Night, and basically, everyone would have a sleepover at my place. So it was like 8 dudes, maybe tops. So my parents wouldn't really be able to handle more. And my parents went to bed pretty early, like 10 o'clock or so, right? And so
Okay.
we would all sneak out through my bedroom window. Everyone had to wear all black, and then you take a shirt and you tie it over your face so you have a ninja mask.
Wow.
And we would go from my house to one of the nights we did Bed Bath and Beyond in Ocean Ranch. So it was about 5.5 or 6 miles, and we
You
go.
walked?
Oh yeah, yeah, it's on foot. You go all the way to Bed Bath and Beyond. You have to climb Bed Bath and Beyond, and then we have to make it back to my house. And the whole point is you can't be seen by a single person. Every time a car comes, you have to dive in a bush. Every time,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of us too, and
You got
dude,
7 other guys to do that?
I was a fucking ringleader of all sorts of crazy shit in high school.
That's
I
insane.
did those fugitive games. I did all sorts of that stuff, and like a lot of this was going on without like the knowledge of many people. I don't think most people have even heard of
I
Ninja
did.
Night, but we only squeaked out I think about 3 times. We only did Ninja Night like 3 times because it was so fucking
Wow.
tiring, dude. Um,
It sounds very intense.
we had to take alternate routes too. Sometimes you'd have to like just be like, I don't want to go along a road and dive in a bush every time a car comes, so we're gonna go take the longer route to get there and shit. But at one point we were coming back and it was about 5 a.m. and we're on like Crown Valley and Alicia, and it's very close to the police station. And this cop car comes around the corner and we have no cover. There's no bushes anywhere. The sun is coming up, and all of us just laid flat on the sidewalk, and I don't know how the fucking cop didn't see or stop. Because that's the other thing is like you'll know if people see you because you look shady as shit. All of you are wearing masks. All of you are
Yeah.
wearing all black, and you look shady as shit. So that's like part of the fun too. Is like there's some risk, right?
How did you come up with this game, dude? Did you find
Um,
this from someone or the
No,
internet?
I came up with it. I think it was partially because of Fugitive. We liked Fugitive so much because I mean a good Fugitive match was the best thing you could ever do in high school. People fucking
What's
stopped doing it.
fugitive?
Fugitive was you have a group of people and it's cops and robbers, right? Cops are allowed to use cars, so it kind of sucked sometimes because not everyone had cars or driver's licenses at that point. But sometimes we get some kids from college who were in for the weekend and they'd be the cops. And everyone else goes on foot. If you get tagged, you become a cop and you get in their car or you go on foot and try to tag other people. And then the distance is usually like 5 to 7 miles. So it's
Wow.
pretty long. Like it would be like Laguna. Our usual spot was like the Laguna Niguel KFC on Alicia to the Aliso Town Center Taco Bell,
Wow.
and we sometimes had maybe 200 players. So it was
That's
big.
a
It was a
lot.
big deal, and it was also around the time that Facebook events were becoming popular too, and like people from other states were like, I need to get something like this going in my state. And then at some point, someone in Washington died playing the game because they fell out of the back. They got put in the back of a truck and they fell out of the bed and hit their head on something and died. And then we were the only people in the country at the time who had any footage of it. We had a shitty night vision camera. So I think it was KTLA 5 wanted to do a report, and they used our footage in the video. And so
Wow.
you can see the news segment on it, and it's just the back of my fucking long ass hair bobbing in the shitty night vision shaky camera. Like they didn't really get any crazy footage of it, and it wasn't the best thing to even really film, but Anthony did a good job, filming it and like at least getting it a little more recognized or well known.
Fugitive?
Yeah. And then at some point, I was in college at some point, and I came down for a weekend, and most of the time I would be like a fugitive, running from one spot to the other. But one weekend I decided I'm gonna be a cop, and I'm not gonna use a car, and so I gave my car to Teaspoon, and I just went on foot because I'm like, I can outrun, these fuckers get a 10-minute head start. I can run fast enough to catch up to most of them and just fucking ruin their night. You know what I mean? Right away. And then I'll fucking radio in Troy and be like, come pick me up and drop me off here. I got another ambush angle I want to set up. I caught like 28 people that night.
Wow.
Yeah, so I did pretty good, and people were upset, but like they're not playing the game right because they're like they make it down to that Aliso Creek spot, and they just start walking because they're like, there's no roads nearby. How are they gonna get down here? There's no roads, and they just start walking, conserving energy, and they don't expect some dude just sprinting behind them and tagging all of them. It's like, you're out, you're out, you're out, fucking all of you cops now.
Wow. What
Yeah.
an interesting game.
It was so fun to play too because there was a lot of angles people would take. I would always do something crazy like avoid roads entirely. Like we'd go into Wood Canyon and be like, okay, we're just gonna go straight up this hill, even though it's all bushes and shit, just
Have
because like
they
we didn't want to get caught.
Pokemon Go?
Mm,
ki- Was it similar? Is it a similar thing?
not really. Pokemon Go was a good exercise to get outside. I was on my study abroad in Belize when it happened, so I missed part of the initial craze. Um, there wasn't good internet out in Belize. I had one bar that I like to go to, and I caught like two Pidgeys or some shit. And I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" Because I just caught two Pokemon. I didn't realize that like everywhere else in the world there was like 5 Pokemon on every street. I thought they just
Really?
appeared like every 30 minutes, but I was in the middle of the jungle. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
and it was a game that I didn't. It wasn't my game. You know, I thought it was going to be like go somewhere cool to get a legendary Pokemon. I thought it was gonna be like, oh, hike to the summit of this mountain and you'll find a rare Pokemon up there. I didn't realize it was all gonna just be population based, which is obviously the way you want to do it if you want to make money. But I thought it was gonna be like go on epic adventures to catch Pokemon, not like
What's
sit on your couch and catch Pokemon.
what's the reason you say population based?
Um, well, it was based on the more density population area you lived in, the more Pokemon would usually spawn around there.
Okay,
So like since I was in the middle of the jungle, there was like no Pokemon spawning for the most part.
that makes
Um,
sense.
but when I got back, I tried to get into it for a little bit, and I had a girlfriend I met at the time on that study abroad, right? So we were dating long distance after that. But in my time, I think my parents rented out our house Airbnb, and we Airbnb'd a spot in Dana Point, just like a couple cities over. And the harbor was like the Pokemon Go spot because there's these
I've heard.
Pokestops along the way, and every time you walk past them, you get a few more Pokeballs you can throw out. And then that baby beach has 3 Pokestops on it, and people would do these lures on the Pokestops, and that would attract more Pokemon. So there was like one spot where you could catch all 3 lured areas, and you could just sit in baby beach and throw all your Pokeballs until you run out, and then you just walk the strip again to get more. And I did that for
Wow.
hours. That's when I got that like portable battery pack and shit. But I got my girl into the game, and we were having fun just doing it for like an hour or so. And she's like, "Wait, what's the point of all this?" And I had to think about it for a second because I was just mindlessly catching Pokemon. And I'm like, I guess you fucking take over gyms. I don't know. And then I was like, oh, the combat sucks. Nothing. There is no end game to this game. This game is literally just throw balls at Pokemon that appear places, and
Wow.
that was the extent of the. They've added a shitload more since. I have friends who still kind of do that stuff, but it was it was a fast dying craze probably because of it. I don't think it was designed that well. They went with like a more like mom friendly system of like Pokemon combat was just tapping the screen.
My mom loved the game.
Exactly, but they could have just gone with the old system of like the turn-based combat, and people who were fans would have appreciated that a lot more. You know,
Those, I feel like the reason I brought that up is because I feel like someone could make a fugitive with application games pretty easily.
we were thinking about it. I mean, Anthony's got a lot of skill in developing these augmented reality slash Oculus style games, and he has all the tech, all the gadgets. I mean, you should see his room. There's like 20 headsets in there from different companies and shit.
Wow. I
Yeah.
know Apple's about to, they're gonna I think they're gonna display their new AR in June.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen. Well, maybe I have seen the new Apple AR. I don't know. Even if
No,
I
I
have,
think it's gonna be
I'm not
displayed
allowed.
for the first time in June.
Yeah, but usually they give out developer kits before then, so they can at least get people in on it.
Oh wow.
He's always been, getting the early stuff for the most
Well,
part.
it's
He
not
just
going to be released to the public in June. It's just like
it's just being shown. Yeah,
like when Steve Jobs would be like, "This is the iPhone.
yeah,
Here you go." And I think in December they're trying to roll out the for Christmas they're trying to roll out the actual releases. So he might get it in the coming months then after they put it out in June and then
yeah. Well,
he
we've
can.
always had these fun ideas, like all this new tech, like especially like real life tech, has some really good gaming opportunities in it. And we have been trying to think of how to adapt Fugitive to some sort of game in real life because it
I
was it
think
was
it'll be
fun.
very
It
popular.
was exhilarating, especially with this whole the battle royale genre really took off for those
What's
few
Battle
years.
Royale?
Battle royale was like Fortnite, and it was originally PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. You drop from a plane. There's guns in houses. You get the guns. There's a circle. The circle keeps closing, so it narrows down where you can be and still be alive. and you try to make it to the final circle and be the last man standing. That's the whole genre. So they invented it, sort of. It was off of an Arma 3 mod, which was like a military simulator game. So someone modded that and kind of came up with this genre. And then they broke off, created their own company, tried to make PUBG. They didn't do a very good job. It didn't run well. And so they did it on the Unreal Engine, which is owned by Epic Games. And they
Okay.
asked Epic Games for assistance in working out some of the kinks with their game. And Epic Games saw the popularity and they were like, oh shit, we should do something like this. And so they had a game coming out called Fortnite, which was about building these forts and defending yourselves from zombies. And they took the entire battle
Market.
royale genre and they made their own game mode within this game they were already working on. And that's why Fortnite has all this like random building and shit, is because it's like it's a remnant from the game they were already working on. And they have a single player mode, which was the game they were originally doing. But there was a whole lawsuit over it because the people who made PUBG wanted assistance on, optimizing their game for the Unreal Engine, and the creators of Unreal, Epic Games, just fucking took it and ran with it, and they made Fortnite, and that obviously massive success.
Dude, that's what I'm thinking is going to happen with ride sharing and Tesla. I think, dude, I can't imagine that Tesla doesn't have that in their forefront of their mind.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's a lawsuit there somewhere, but like, fucking, the laws aren't made for these things because these things haven't happened yet.
No, they're not.
It's all just legal precedents expected to be set. I got a friend who's getting into like AI
Tech law?
ethics and shit. AI
Okay.
ethics, and I feel like legal departments are also scrambling in that area as well.
That's going to be really tough. Like, where's the line for plagiarism at that point? Like,
Yeah,
dude,
things are gonna get weird.
things are going to get so weird, and deep fakes.
Well, I don't even know how law works that well, Like I know you have to do a fuckload of research to make a case for your client, right? And I feel like all that research in the future is literally just going to be scrubbing code, right? For similarities and shit. And you're just going to have to scrub and scrub. And I don't think people in law are necessarily prepared for that, because they needed to also have some sort of computer engineering background in order to scrub code. But like,
Dude,
that's maybe where it's going,
Dude, I agree with you. I think a lot of the more valuable people are going to be the ones that have like that little bit of mixed experience between some sort of tech and like the general functions of the economy they're working in. Like, I think realtors are going to have to know things about decentralized finance and blockchain and cryptocurrency. I think,
Troy's all
like,
over that shit. Troy is all over that shit. Yeah.
Troy, in what way?
Oh, well, I don't exactly know, because I'm not at the same level as him in life. He's got the wife. He's buying his second place now, and he is so fucking tech minded that like he just sees opportunities everywhere in industries I don't fully understand, like the real estate market. He works in the health insurance tech industry. So
Wow, dude, health, medical. I need to talk to Troy soon, and
yeah,
we'll get.
Troy will fucking blow your mind on some shit, because like he's the one friend, he's the one friend that like nobody expected greatness out of based on his path out of high school. Like we all knew he was smart as fuck, but like
Dude,
we,
he was a computer whiz in high school,
well,
bro.
he was decent. His dad was the real whiz, and it just rubbed off on him growing up.
I mean, you can only be so
But
deep. I mean,
he was quick. He was quick to get anything computers for the most part, and he was
dude,
interested in it.
very, and he knew everything. Like, dude, he was, I think, the most well-versed computer scientist in our high school. I don't think anyone was better with the computer than him.
There was a few people that I think delved more into it. Like Rustin Manafian was
That's true.
also
He had an
was
app. Yeah, he
yeah.
was.
Apparently, I heard from was it Cole Brown? It might have been Cole Brown. I heard that like Rustin was making like six figures throughout college just selling his services for app designing.
I don't doubt it. That
I
guy
don't doubt
was
it. That guy was
very
cracked.
smart.
He was funny too. He was the one who came up with the universal remote ploy.
What universal? Oh,
Yeah,
genius, dude. Against our teacher when she had no idea who was changing the channel.
that was mean, but it was also, I don't remember much from middle school, but like, bro, how could you forget that?
No, that is something you're not going to forget. That, and I think
Because it was kind of early tech at the time too. I don't know how old universal remotes were at the time, but it's not like our teacher had ever encountered a class that had used a universal remote to manipulate the TV. And
no.
she skipped a sex scene in some movie that had some historical facts or whatever, and it just rewind back and play the sex scene. It was just like, oh shit.
Dude,
People were rowdy in middle school. There was the
did someone
satellites.
tell on him?
No, the problem was everyone wanted part of the action, and I think it happened like fourth or fifth period, and so
Oh,
he passed the remote to the next period, and then the next day passed it to first period. So there were three
right.
classes where this phenomena our teacher had never seen before was occurring, and fucking all of a sudden she has a whole night that she's allowed to fucking, my TV's going haywire. She Google's my TV in my classroom is going haywire, and I'm sure someone across the country also experienced that. Oh, it turns out someone was using universal remote, and so when they came into the class with the universal remote the next day and the TV was fucked, the first thing she did was just stand up. Okay, where is the universal remote? And then everyone got sent outside the class, and there was just this huge deliberation of like, who's gonna take the blame for this? Where do we hide the remote? Whatever. And then we never got to play fucking Civil War baseball. Still have no idea how that game's supposed to go, but it was
I'm
probably just
okay with that.
I'm fine. I'm fine. There are some suck ups in the class though. There are some teachers' pets who were probably either routed or
I would guess
at
so.
least we're very upset that we didn't get to play Civil War baseball.
I would guess that someone, I personally, I'm always, someone definitely ratted for sure.
I mean, all that shit is great fucking around in that time, but like
Oh,
honestly,
yes.
it feels bad as an adult too, because you're just like, teaching is such a shit job. And you're just like,
Teaching is very hard.
we made our teachers' lives miserable, and they were like they were in a good classroom. You know what I mean? It's being
Yes.
teaching an OC is easy as far as teaching goes. It should
That
be.
was not that hard. I mean, I hear nightmare stories from like inner city
Inner
teachers
city
about,
teachers have it bad for sure.
yes.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can improve. I mean, I don't know, dude. That's a nightmare. Education in public education in America. Let's
Yeah,
not even.
we have the best end on public education. Like we can't really
Oh yeah.
complain. Our
And
shit was good. We had good programs. I mean, I
in Orange County.
yeah. I mean, my best friend he was in private schools and stuff because his parents were religious and all that. And like still think I probably got a better education than him.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's this in and it's a tough thing. And I mean, most public schools aren't very good. Local taxes play a huge part.
Yeah, local taxes. That's why ours are good. It's just local taxes. Dude, Laguna Beach High School, fucking my dad's best friend is a prominent eye surgeon like in the
Okay.
area. So he's pretty loaded, but he has twins and I like tutored them quite a bit and shit. Laguna Beach High School, every student gets a MacBook
Really?
like to take home and shit, yeah, and do work on.
Wow.
Like that's insane. That's a different
That's
level of wealth, you know.
that's a different level of wealth. And I would not give a 14-year-old a MacBook, dude. I would just be like, That's
It's like, yeah, it's like rental, but they also have the funds, you know. So it's like
it's
it's nutso. It's nutso over there.
people, and I've heard the same thing for a public school educator, for middle school. They use Chromebooks, and I don't think people really understand what this means for American youth and how youths across I mean, I really don't know what goes on in the classrooms of
Yeah,
Chinese people, of Europeans, of
yeah,
South Americans, of Africans,
yeah.
of
We only have
Russians.
limited perspective,
Very limited.
but we can speculate. We can
I'm going to
speculate.
speculate that not every student is using a Chromebook or a MacBook, and it's not like absolutely necessary for every student. And
No, but we can speculate further and probably say that not everyone's using a MacBook or Chromebook in a way that benefits them better than not having it, right?
oh, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like they're actually
Attention
doing.
spans are low nowadays, dude. I'm on YouTube Shorts and I'm fucking scrolling through like fucking 50 videos in 20 minutes and shit. You don't think that some kid's got an incognito tab open during class and is just fucking scrolling through shit, not absorbing anything besides like
Well,
top 10 Fortnite plays of the week, shit like that?
I just had a teacher on the podcast, or
Mhm.
I was actually on a podcast with a teacher, and pretty much you'd have to have a Wi-Fi blocker on campus. You'd have to have a signal blocker on campus that would not allow anyone to have their own device bringing in Wi-Fi, because unless you have that, someone can have their own device on campus and that thing can be supplying Wi-Fi
Yeah.
to any of their
Yeah, because
devices.
you can just hotspot your computer for shit. I had to do it the other day.
Exactly.
The Cox cable guy came over and I was like in the middle of a ranked match and I was like, "Ah, shit, I've never done this. I've never created a hotspot for myself." So I just like did it real quick on my phone and my match was a little laggy, but like and we lost anyway, but it doesn't matter. I was able to come back and I'm just like, "Oh shit, technology, man. This is something that was invented fucking 10 years ago and this is my first time using it."
And it works pretty well, and it's pretty
Works pretty
incredible.
well now. Yeah. Well, yeah. No, it's true. I mean, you got the phone blocker stuff, and then there's always tech kids. There's always kids like Rustin, right?
Who just are more
Who are
savvy.
smart. They're smart as fuck, but they're also mischief makers, and they'll find a way around whatever thing you throw at them, and they might even share the information with other classmates. Like, look, you just need to create a static IP to do this sort of shit, this sort of IT stuff that no one really knows about their computer that they can do, something in the command line, any of that shit. And then all of a sudden, your students are watching porn in the middle of class, and you got to deal with that. You got to call on all the dudes and have them stand up in the front of class. And if they don't want to stand up, you know who's watching porn.
It's young kids, if you give them the opportunity, they'll take advantage of.
Oh yeah. Well, if you give anyone a nice enough rope, they're gonna take all the slack they can if
But
they're opportunistic.
young kids, I feel, are very just reactionary, and like you said, some of them are a little mischievous. I mean, I like a cybersecurity podcast, and so often in these cybersecurity podcasts, it's a teenager who is just got complete freedom on his computer, or her. It's usually a boy, honestly, for when it comes to these I mean, most hackers are men, so let's just put that, like, very
How
few of
dare
them.
you?
Like I've not heard many stories of hackers that are female, but these
No.
young teenagers, they just do crazy shit, and
Oh yeah.
they are capable, and they're not like going out and trying to buy a paycheck. They're not going out and taking care of a kid. They're not trying to take care of a spouse. They don't have
Yeah.
parents. They're being taken care of completely.
Yeah.
They have these and they stay up late hours. They can do whatever they want, and they're really quick. They're really quick. They can do things quicker than the adults.
Oh yeah.
And so, like, they just get into very mischievous stuff easily.
Universal
And
Remote was an easy prank. It was just the beginning.
dude, that's
Right?
just the beginning. I mean, you
Yeah.
just talked about static IP addresses, and it's like, once we get into like the internet and networking and like the vastness of the internet, not just like the internet that Google presents to you, but like the dark web, the deep web.
Yeah. I mean there's some shit too, because like I don't know, we had fucking analog TVs and shit, right? The worst thing
Wow.
we could do was rewind back to some scene that you wanted to skip over because it was too violent or too sexy, and we only did it in like one or two periods or some shit. But imagine the whole class has access to a smart TV and they can just Chromecast whatever's on their laptop. You could end up with some nightmare scenarios, and I'm not talking about just like putting porn up for the whole class to see. I'm talking about like some dark web shit, some shit you don't want to, like traumatizing shit. And someone with a fucked up enough but gifted mind has pulled that off already,
I'm
right?
sure.
100%. I don't know.
Definitely.
Teaching in America, it's not the most desirable thing nowadays.
That's really funny you say this because I had a podcast earlier this week where that was pretty much it was actually last week, and it was the exact thing. It's like, dude, teaching in America, we don't give teachers enough resources. And
Yeah, but
then,
that's what they said 50 years ago too. It's not like people are surprised by it. They get into teaching
no,
nowadays and then they're just like, "Wait, we don't give teachers enough resources?" It's like, "Bro, politicians in the 70s were saying that shit so they could get elected." The
oh
teachers in
my
the
God.
70s were saying that our teachers would literally have mental breakdowns in the middle of class being like, "They're not giving us enough resources." And now we're just like, people are getting into teaching and they're just like, wait, there's not enough resources? Like, no shit, dude.
Dude, oh my God, Scott. Honestly, I
Clip
think,
that. That's a good one.
what was that?
What? Just clip that bit right there.
Dude, I think we're gonna clip that, and I think that's a great place for us to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Do you
I,
have any last or any comments or any notes that you'd like to let the audience know about before we end it?
I don't think I have any one-liners right now. I think we'll just until next time. But I'm down to be on as much as you want me to be on. This shit's fun.
Dude, this shit's very fun, and I definitely will have you on soon again, Scott. It's
Yeah.
very good to speak with you.
Yeah, definitely. Uh just need to get those ads out, dude. We're gonna go viral one of these days. Just gotta keep trying.
Dude, keep trying. Like we said before the recording, just boom, boom, boom. Just shit them out, dude. One by one by one by one.
Yeah.
My guest today has been Scott Carnahan. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Scott.
Yeah. Fucking good times.